And I'd like to welcome you to this webinar introducing our new animal law program. Just a few housekeeping items. First, please rename yourself on Zoom and add your VLS class year if you're so inclined. Second, please mute yourself to ensure that we can hear our presenters. Third, please place questions in the chat feature and we'll do our best to respond. We'll leave time for Q&A after the panel. For your information, this webinar is being recorded and the recording will be available on our website at a future. I'd now like to introduce Jennifer Rushlow, Associate Dean for Environmental Programs and Director of the Environmental Law Center at VLS. Prior to joining the law school in 2018, Dean Rushlow spent 7 years at the Conservation Law Foundation, where she founded the organization's Legal Food Hub. She is a BA from Oberlin, an MPH from Tufts, and a JD from Northeastern. Jenny, take it away.
Thank you, Andy. Hello, everybody. It is so wonderful to see so many of you here and not just staying connected to VLS, but showing this genuine interest in contributing to the school as it is now, to caring about our mission to educate our students to make the world a better place. And as I was thinking about this presentation, I was thinking about how the animal law students that I've encountered at VLS have been among the most brave and committed, zealous advocates that I've encountered truly in the student body at VLS, which really so appropriately demonstrates the ethos that we have at VLS. But you've also been some of the most patient as the environmental community at VLS and elsewhere has tried to figure out what to do with animal law. You know, there's been this long-standing kind of overlap, but standoff between the environmental community and the animal law community, at least as it has appeared to me. And I've even seen that in how our own faculty has wrestled with how to address issues of animal law within their traditional environmental work. And since I've come to VLS, and I've been here 3 years, one of my goals as the person who oversees our environmental programs has been to broaden our thinking about what environmental law means, where environmental law intersects with other disciplines and fields, and to find ways to collaborate across disciplines in a way that strengthens both. VLS has a history of being among the first to get involved in animal law. As I understand it, we had the first animal law course at a law school ever. Since that time, we've remained involved, but have been slow to develop beyond that. And we're ready now to fully dive in. We are establishing a discrete and defined animal law program for the first time. And we are really committing to not just addressing issues of animal welfare within the context of our existing environmental frameworks, but focusing on animal protection for animals' sake. And that's really a step that we're taking for the first time at VLS. And I'm really proud to say that we're doing it, but also that it has the support of our faculty, of our environmental faculty, and we're really ready to do it right. We brought in Delcianna Winders, who we're so delighted to have at VLS. Delcy is a visiting professor with us this year, and she's director of our new animal law program and has an incredible vision for what this program could be. But we have such a track record of VLS alums going out into the field and doing really important animal law work at well-established organizations. And so Delcy and I thought it was really important to get your perspective, to hear how you think an animal law program at VLS could contribute to the work of animal protection. Because, you know, I've seen in my career that whenever you start a new program, if you want it to be useful, you really need to talk to the people who are involved in that work and figure out how you can add to what's being done and not duplicate and take resources away from other great work that's happening. So we really want to learn from you about what you think would be useful and ideal for an animal law program at VLS. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Delcy. And for those of you who don't know her, and I think a lot of you do, Delcy has taught an animal law class during our summer program for over a decade, I believe. Delcy came to VLS from Lewis and Clark Law School, where she founded and directed the first in the world, the first law school clinic dedicated to farmed animal advocacy. And prior to that, she was at PETA, at the PETA Foundation, where she was VP and Deputy General Counsel. She's also been affiliated with the Harvard Animal Law and Policy Program, and she was a visiting scholar at PACE. She's published extensively. I was so impressed not only that she had made the transition from practice to academia so seamlessly, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, it is a big adjustment, but that she had such a record of publications in doing so. Delcy brings such energy and insight and experience to this work. And so I'm going to stop talking and turn it over to her.
Thank you, Jenny. And thank you, everybody who's shown up. I'm just so thrilled to see so many people here. And as Jenny said, part of the purpose of today is really to hear from you all. We want to leave ample time for discussion at the end, because we want to hear from you what you think we should be prioritizing and focusing on as we build this new program. But I also am really excited to share updates with you. So I'm going to try to strike a good balance and not speak for too long. So as Jenny said, VLS has a long history of animal law. More than 3 decades ago, in 1990, we were one of the very first schools in the world to offer an animal law course. Over the years, those offerings have grown to the point that we now have 10 curriculum committee approved animal law courses. And we have, as represented by many of you today, alumni in incredible leadership positions with animal protection groups, doing amazing work across the board. And I don't want to call anybody in particular out because there are so many people who are doing great work. But I will say, just here today, we have high-level leadership from Animal Outlook, the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, the Center for Biological Diversity, Friends of Animals, Humane Society of the United States, the PETA Foundation, and more groups, as well as folks doing animal law in private practice and in academia. So it's really impressive. And animal law at VLS, as Jenny suggested, has really been student driven. So I have to give a shout out to all of the students, past and present, many of you here today who have really pushed for this. The faculty here and the staff have been amazing and welcoming and collaborative, but it's really the students that I've been blown away by. And many of you are those students, or you once were, or maybe you will be. And so our Animal Law Society, which is a Animal Legal Defense Fund chapter, has been active for decades and has been hosting regular events for many years. They've won the Student Animal Legal Defense Fund Chapter of the Year Award. Just to give you one example, next Thursday, they're going to be hosting a vegan Thanksgiving potluck here on campus. And that is an event that has been going on since 1999 and has attracted in some years more than 200 students, faculty, and staff. And yet, despite this strong and abiding student interest, there has never been a dedicated animal law program at VLS until this year. And that's really thanks to generous support from Animal Welfare Trust, the Brooks Institute for Animal Rights Law and Policy, Grace Communications Foundation, and Greenbaum Foundation, which has made this all possible. So what does it mean for Vermont Law School to have an animal law program? That is what we're here to talk about today. And as we've said, we want to hear from you what you think that should look like and prioritize. But we do, of course, already have a lot of ideas and a lot of things underway. So I want to talk about some of that stuff, but I want to underscore that this is really just the beginning. The potential here, I'm confident, is huge, and I want to tap all of that potential. So some of the things we're doing so far, and it's only been 3 months since I started, so keep that in mind. We have launched an animal law concentration. So students can now get a certificate in animal law by completing at least 14-hour credits of coursework in animal law, including a required core course and at least one experiential or writing credit focused on animal law. Some of the classes in that concentration include animal welfare law, which is an interdisciplinary course that I've been teaching for several years with Dawn Bauer and Dr. Heather Rowley, a veterinarian, that really focuses on applying animal welfare science, ethics, and policy to discussions of the law. The law of animals in agriculture, a farmed animal law class that Professor Vesilind teaches, animal law and ethics, and animals and the law, which is a survey course I'm teaching right now. As we grow the program, we anticipate adding additional courses. And one of the areas I'm particularly interested in focusing on is emphasizing the linkages between science and law in the space of animal law and what we can do to further law for animals using science. And that builds off of some of the work that Dr. Rowley and I have been doing in the animal welfare law course. We also have been expanding our summer program offerings. So animal law has been a mainstay of Vermont Law School's Environmental Law Center's summer session for many years. I've been teaching in it. Others have taught animal law courses in it. Last year, we were thrilled to build on that by hosting our first ever Animal Law Media Fellow, thanks to generous support from the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. And that enabled us to bring on, through a competitive application process, a qualified journalist whose beat includes animal agriculture or animal welfare, to take a summer class here and to engage with our faculty and our policy leader visitors, and to also give a talk here. And the goal of that program is to create dialogue, increase dialogue around the lack of legal protections for farmed animals and related policy issues. And the fellow gives a talk as part of our Hot Topics in Environmental Law lecture series, which has regularly featured animal law topics, including just this past summer. There was one on the legal status of chickens, one on the application of ag-gag laws to folks who are bearing witness to animal suffering, one on algal blooms in animal agriculture, and one on the problematic state of farmed animal law in Canada. So we hope to have a similarly robust slate of animal law related hot topics in the coming summer. And we're hopeful that we can host an animal law media fellow again and continue that program, which was really successful in its first year. And I am very happy to announce that this coming summer, for the first time ever, we will have an entire track of animal law courses. So every term of the summer session, there will be at least one animal law class that's offered. So during the first term, we're going to offer an entirely new class that I am really excited about, which will be taught by Vermont Law School Professor Meg York as a weekend intensive course. And that is on undercover investigations in animal operations. We will also, during term one, have ocean and coastal law, which is a very beloved course, longstanding, taught by Dawn Bauer, who is an expert in the field and a longstanding champion of animal law at VLS. And there's extensive discussion of wildlife laws and treaties in that class. Then during term two will be the animal welfare law course that I've already mentioned. In term three, Dr. Rowley will teach another new course, animal ethics and conservation, which will give students an opportunity to really do a deep dive on the relationship between animal and environmental protection. And then finally, in term four, we'll offer biodiversity law with Professor David Takacs of University of California, Hastings College of Law, who is a leader in the field. So I'm really excited about this expansion of our summer program. But we're also expanding our curricular offerings in animal law during the school year. So historically, animal law courses at VLS have tended to be primarily in the summer, and we want to continue to have robust summer offerings while also having offerings available for the students during the regular school year. So some of the things that we are doing is Professor Vesilind's Law of Animals in Agriculture class will be taught during the regular school year, because this is a really fundamentally important topic within animal law, and we want to make sure it gets full attention over the course of a full semester, and for students who may be doing an externship or something during the summer. We also are trying out some new classes. So this semester, for example, in addition to the Animals in the Law survey course that I'm teaching, Professor Vesilind, who you are going to hear from shortly, is teaching a constitutional animal law course. And next semester, I will be teaching an animal law practicum, which will give students the opportunity to work on real life matters under my very close supervision, while also taking a seminar on the ins and outs of practical legal advocacy and strategy for animals. There's a lot of student interest in this sort of experiential learning, and it's a really important component of an animal law program. So that brings me to one of my big announcements for today, which is that I am very pleased to tell you that the Vermont Law School Curriculum Committee very recently and unanimously approved my proposal for a farmed animal advocacy clinic to be added to the curriculum here. So now that we have approval, I do need to raise the money for that. And this is not a fundraising event, but I will note that you can actually, the animal law program is now on the drop down for online giving for Vermont Law School. And if one were so inclined, one could further earmark a gift for the Farmed Animal Advocacy Clinic just by putting that in the comment box. But that is not why we're here today. I'm cautiously optimistic that we can raise the funds to launch the clinic for next school year. So that will be fall 2022. And I am very excited about this. My second big announcement is that I am very, very happy to share that Laura Ireland, who I believe is here with us today, although there's so many people, I can't see everybody, but I believe Laura is here, will be joining us as a program coordinator. So if you've been around in animal law for any length of time, you probably know that Laura is she's a trailblazer in this space. She has started things where nothing existed, and she already has a ton of amazing ideas for what we can do here at VLS. So she will be starting next week as a program coordinator in the animal law program. She'll be starting as a temporary hire because we are going through all of the VLS policies and we have to do a full national search, but we wanted to be able to keep things going with the momentum. And so we got permission to do a temporary hire so that we could get someone in place right away. So I'm very thrilled to have Laura here. Laura, if you're here, do you want to just jump on and say hi?
Hi, I'm here. Hello,
Hi,
everyone.
sorry to put you on the spot.
Oh, no, it's fine. Very excited. You know, it's like Delcy, kind of, she has a lot of experience at a lot of different schools, but I have experience at Lewis and Clark Law School and kind of starting the animal law program there in 2001 to 2008. Have been doing some other things, but thrilled to be able to join Delcy and really help make Vermont Law School amazing. You know, start an amazing program for animal law, and just thrilled to be part of this and excited for all the things that are happening. That's all.
Thank you. So that brings me to our last big announcement. So you may be aware that the Vermont Law School faculty and the Board of Trustees recently approved a strategic plan, and that was a very long effort in developing and refining that plan, and we're very excited about that plan. What you might not know is that nestled within that strategic plan was a brand new master's degree program in animal protection policy. So among many other things, Laura will be helping me to work to define the contours of that. And our hope is to launch that in fall of 2023. So those are the big things that we've got going now and that are brewing, but there's a lot more going on. I just wanted to give you some highlights and then to let you hear from a few other folks. And then we really do want to hear from you to answer your questions, but also just to get input from you about what you'd like us to be focusing on. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Pamela Vesilind, who, along with Professor Reed Loader, has been leading the charge on keeping animal law here at Vermont Law School for many years. After graduating, she published extensively in animal law. She has practiced animal law. She has been teaching the subject here for years. She has also coached our animal law moot court and legislative lobbying teams. And she's been on the forefront of pushing to relaunch the national animal law competitions. And I am happy to say that thanks to her pushing, we are in discussions with some other law schools that are facilitated by the Brooks Institute. And we're hopeful that we can relaunch those competitions as a collaborative effort, and that perhaps we might even be able to host the first ones in person here at Vermont Law School. So stay tuned for that. And with that, I'll hand it to Professor Vesilind.
Thank you so much. I am just so excited. And I have to say, I'm looking at this list of people who are here today. And I have to say, this is, this is why this school is so special, and why Professor Winders says that the animal law program has always been very student driven. That's true. And the students who have come through the school, and many have names are familiar to me, and faces from classes I've taught, I feel like you are out there doing the work that I'm just so proud of the to be able to say that, as Professor Winders said, all the just rattling off all of the different organizations, and I know there are members here of law firms who are practicing, and so so thanks for being here and joining us for this. I came to law school as a late bloomer, I'm just going to say, because I was really interested in something called animal law, and I wasn't really even sure exactly what it was, and took the summer class here at VLS before even applying to, for the JD program, and I never looked back. And I don't regret it for a second. I did when I returned to the school as a member of the faculty. I harassed our then academic dean into letting me offer a full semester animal law class here, and apparently he couldn't say no, and we never looked back from that either. And so I guess this has been my 7th or 6th year teaching law of animals and agriculture, and I'm looking at this list and I see at least 10 of you that came through that class. And so I could not be more excited to have Professor Winders here. I just think that I'm the luckiest, because her ideas and her experience and her network is unbelievable. So I can't wait to hear from you guys as well about what you would like to see in this animal law program, whether you've already graduated or you would like to help shape this for yourself. I want to pass this on to Cydnee Bence, who has been a real rock star here as both a JD student and master's student, and now as a LLM student. She is a LLM fellow in the Center for Agriculture and Food Systems, and she's been focusing on issues of farm animal welfare and consumer protection. She has a crazy smart way of cleverly thinking of different angles for litigation. I've really enjoyed working with her, and so Cydnee, please take it away.
Wow, thanks so much. So I guess I'm going to share my perspective as a student who's gone through almost 3 programs now. When I came to law school a couple of years ago, I didn't know that animal law was an option. I didn't know that it was its own thing. So I came for environmental law because I figured that was close enough. And during my JD, and especially during the summer courses, when I took Professor Vesilind's animal agriculture class and Professor Winders' animal class, I figured, first of all, wow, this exists. Wow, this can be a job. And that so many classes we had presented animal issues. And so I think VLS is in a really unique position to be able to offer now an animal law program because there are so many classes that overlap with animal issues. And I think having an environmental program, food and ag, energy, restorative justice, international offerings, all of this provides students with a great interdisciplinary option and experience. And one of the reasons I came to Vermont Law School was, I think, why so many other students have. I was a mission-driven student. I still am a mission-driven student. I came here because I wanted to do something. I didn't have any lawyers in my life before applying. I didn't really know what being a lawyer meant. And honestly, I didn't really want to be a lawyer, but I figured I want to do something. I have to do something, and this is how I'm going to do something. And before this, I was looking for my admissions folder because I remember there was this really great quote about the students. I couldn't find it, but on the VLS homepage, there's a quote that says, "We're committed to developing a generation of leaders who use power of the law to make a difference in our communities and the world because the status quo is no longer acceptable." And I think my experience at Vermont Law has fit that perfectly. Professors really encourage students to think critically about the current status of the law. And they, at least for me, there was a lot of support for curiosity and new ideas. And I think VLS has created a great environment for big new ideas and creative solutions, which, as I found out through some of the experiences that I got to have, are desperately needed in animal law. And because of this mission-driven, I guess, culture, VLS has offered a lot of experiential learning opportunities. Personally, I was able to do part-time internships, thanks to both Professor Vesilind and Winders. And so I was able to do part-time internships, work in the clinic, do a full-time semester in practice, do a full-time internship, and serve on a journal. And I don't know that I could have gotten that experience somewhere else. And so the ability to now add to these kind of experiential learning opportunities through a practicum, through moot court, through all of these things is, I think, incredibly appealing for incoming students. And it's a great opportunity to have. So with that, I think I'll pass it over to Will Lowrey. Will Lowrey serves as legal counsel for Animal Outlook and divides his time between undercover investigations and civil litigation. He graduated from VLS with a JD summa cum laude in 2017, and prior to joining Animal Outlook, he clerked in the Superior Court of New Jersey, interned with the Virginia Attorney General Animal Law Unit and the Animal Legal Defense Fund, and has personally been a wonderful mentor and given me, and I know so many other students, a lot of guidance about how exactly to get into animal law once you find out that it's there.
Thanks, Cydnee. I appreciate that. It's a little bit surreal for me that VLS has an animal law program. I came here 6 years ago, and if Professor Vesilind said she was a late bloomer, I was probably an almost too late bloomer. I came here after about a 20-year career, and I came here specifically to pursue animal law. And at that time, I think VLS had 3 classes. We had a really strong animal law society. And I think most of us there, as I'm sure many years prior did, like, we knew there was a core here for something more with respect to animal law. You could feel the passion of the students. You could tell that people were getting a lot out of it. You know, the SALDF chapter was winning awards and those types of things. And so to see things come full circle now, it's actually pretty wonderful to see. And VLS, like I mentioned, it does have that core. I mean, there's a really strong animal law society. The classes have always been there. It sounds like the classes are increasing. And then, at the risk of embarrassing Delci, you're now adding Delci to the mix. And I remember when I was in law school, it was like Delcy's name was one of those, oh man, like who is this person? Like she's a superstar in animal law. You'll never get to work with her. And then the first time I was on a meeting, she said something about, that's a great idea. And I was completely like, holy cow, I can actually do this. Like she commended me. And so I'm not sure if a lot at VLS know how lucky they are to have Delcy. I've gotten to work with her at the Lewis and Clark Clinic on multiple lawsuits and through multiple cases. And I think the future is pretty bright and endless for VLS. And so as I'm the last impediment before the Q&A, I think just a couple quick things on why I find animal law fascinating. And Cydnee mentioned, like, I will talk to anybody and everybody about animal law because I think the field itself is fascinating. And I think the possibilities are endless. There is no shortage of work. I mean, animals are suffering in all sorts of industries all across the country. And then the thing that I enjoy the most out of it is just the opportunity to dive into sort of unique and diverse areas of the law. I took a quick list just from this week alone of the different areas of the law that I've been able to substantively dabble in. And it includes nuisance, Clean Water Act, animal cruelty, administrative law, defamation, attorney privilege, RICO, food safety. And so if you're looking for something where you can sort of spread your wings, you can find creative solutions, you can dive in and find solutions to problems that are meaningful and important, I think that animal law is it. And I think VLS is really well positioned. So I'm glad Delcy's here. I'm glad the program's here. And I think now we turn to the Q&A.
Thank you so much, Will, and all of the other co-panelists. So yeah, we definitely, like I said, want to hear from you what you think we should be focusing on and prioritizing in the program, in the master's degree, as we build that out, anything and everything, and also want to answer any questions that you have. So I'm going to mute myself and see if someone wants to, I believe, Andy, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Should we ask folks to use the hand raise function or just unmute?
I think they can just unmute and jump in. If it gets to be too confusing, we can adapt.
Great.
Any questions?
Claudine. And if you're asking a question and you're an alumni, please let us know. Well, regardless, please let us know where you're joining us from, and if you're an alumni, your year if it's not in your name.
Hi,
Claudine, go ahead.
Hi, sorry guys, I was on mute. And so I love this. I think it's fantastic. Delcy, you're amazing, and everybody on here too. I actually attended Vermont Law School 24 years ago. That was a 2 and a 4. And it was a time where there are only 2 law schools in the nation teaching animal law. Vermont was one of them. My wonderful professor, Stephen Wise, was the summer professor for animal law. And of course, Lewis and Clark was the other. And I never thought either that I could make a profession out of it, but I've been doing this now for almost 30 years. And I'm actually on my way down to Forsyth, Georgia. We're holding down the South here, and there's a lot of abuse in this state. But we're doing the first ever animal crimes training, full day training, where I'm going to have 110 police officers in front of me tomorrow all day. We've got some great speakers. We've been doing this for 23 years now. So I'm very excited because it's the first time JPSTC, which is Georgia Public Safety Training Center, is having their full day of animal crimes training. But one of the things I see that I think we're missing, or maybe you guys could lead me to the right place, is I get this question a lot. And that is, our local law enforcement will not enforce the laws. And, other than writs of mandamuses, which take a while and nobody seems to be willing to help do that here, because I would do them if I really knew how to do them, but I just don't. That's not one thing I've ever really done. But that's an ongoing question. I probably get that once a month from a local person who's an animal advocate telling me that, hey, just today, I got one today, in fact, and the question was, I hired a pet sitter for a week and came back and 7 of my birds were dead. And the law enforcement officer said that birds were not protected under our cruelty statute, which is not true. So obviously there's a lack of education, but the other issue is, how do we crime or, stopping crime is on their shoulders?
It's a great question. And congrats and thank you for the training work that you're doing. I put an applause in the chat, but I don't think you saw it because you're driving.
I'm driving, yeah.
So yeah, this literally, we were talking about this in class today. Some of my students who are here can attest to, primarily in the context of folks who refuse to enforce the law at the local or state level if an entity is Animal Welfare Act regulated and they just want to punt to the USDA, which we know is not doing a great job. But this comes up beyond that. And it's a huge problem in animal law. It is probably one of the #1 problems. How do we have laws on the books and they're not enforced? And how do we tackle that? And I can't say I've figured out the solution that's going to get us there, but I think we are developing and training students who are going to help us change that situation. And in the longer term, one of the things I'm interested in seeing our animal law program do, and I think it's very consistent with some other components of our strategic plan, is more training of professionals in this space in a variety of settings, law enforcement, prosecutors, and other things like that. That's not going to solve the problem completely. I've done some trainings myself. If folks lack the will or the resources, that's not going to get us over the hurdle. I think there's more fundamental education that needs to happen, but it's something that I agree is a huge issue and that we do want to tackle.
Thank you, Delcy. And Delcy, you spoke at my conference in 2017. I want to thank you for that. It was great. But I'm always looking for interns. I think that's another thing, whatever everyone does in their own state or place, there's always need for support through interns. So great program that you got there at VLS.
So, hi, Delcy, it's Nicole. Well, I'm
Nicole's one of our heavy hitter VPs, by the way.
Well, it's good to hear Claudine. So since Claudine and I went to school around the same time frame. And
hey, Nicole.
Hi, Claudine. Good to hear your voice. Claudine and I randomly email each other for the last 24 years on animal law issues. So it's good to hear you. I'm really excited about all of these changes going on. I graduated in 1998, and just some historical, I think, but when I started, we had an animal law group and we converted it during my term to the Student Animal Legal Defense Fund. And so that was around, I think we did it in 97, potentially, or 96, if you look back. But it's such great progress to see VLS becoming a leader in this area. And I'm really, really excited about the 2023 goal of with the policy efforts there. And I've spent my whole career, 24 plus years in this field doing policy work. So however I can be of service to you, I would love to assist you throughout that process. So, but thank you all. It's really great to see the growth of this field. Back then it was a struggle to get a job, and to see so many people being able to make a living out of this just is amazing to see.
Thank you, Nicole. And I will definitely be hitting you up on the master's policy front. And Nicole, I have to say, is one of the people who, when I was thinking about going to law school for animal law and everyone was telling me that was crazy, I saw Nicole give a talk and chatted with her afterwards. And she's part of the reason I decided that I could do this.
So Delcy, one of the questions that's come in is if you could expand on the range of careers that are available to students in the animal law space.
Yes, thank you. And then I think I did see a hand up from Dawson too. So Dawson can jump in after this. So, I mean, I think the folks represented here are an amazing example of that. I don't want to say it's easy to get a job in animal law. That is not true. It is easier than it has ever been before. There are more opportunities than there have been. And I think, folks are still paving their own paths, and there is an opportunity to do that, but there is also now somewhat well-trod pathways for you to pursue this. There are internship and externship opportunities. There is this incredible alumni network that you can tap into as a VLS student interested in this field, and please take advantage of that, because networking is the #1 tool in careers, not just in animal law, but especially in animal law because it's such a small community. And I'm happy to chat with students about carving a path if there's a particular type of animal issue that they're interested in, or a particular type of practice or geographic area. I'm happy to work with you to try to figure out a pathway for that work. But you can do a wide range of things. You can work for a nonprofit, as many folks who are here today do. You can work in private practice, as some of the folks here are doing, in government, doing legislative work, doing litigation. It's really endless. The sky is the limit. So it's hard to narrow it beyond that, but I hope that you're inspired by the many folks who are here today and the many organizations that I rattled off that aren't even a comprehensive list. Dawson?
Hi, thank you. I'm a 1L right now, so I'm excited to explore this, but I've always been interested in the intersection between energy and animal law. I was just wondering if you could talk about if there's any kind of meaningful path in that direction.
Yeah, it's a great question. This actually came up at the Vermont Law Review Symposium on Friday. We had a panel, an animal law panel that was focused on wildlife protection. And one of the questions from the audience was exactly this. And we're at a really good institution to be exploring these intersections because we have the Institute for Energy and Environment here. And so it's something that I am eager to explore with the Institute to identify particular areas of collaboration. But I will say that there are absolutely areas of intersection already, and there are folks working on those issues here at VLS. So, I mean, one of the things that we need to be considering as we're developing alternative energy sources is the impact on animals, and recognizing the interconnected interests of animals, humans, and the environment. And so our environmental justice clinic, for example, recently filed something with the California state agency challenging their biogas or factory farm gas promotion, I guess I'll say. And that was with a really broad coalition of community groups, environmental groups, the Animal Legal Defense Fund, and others. Our environmental advocacy clinic is doing work around wind power impacts on wildlife. So there is certainly work to be done in that space, and you're at a really good place to be doing it. So I'm glad you're here. Other questions, comments, feedback, suggestions?
Okay, I have one other question that's come in, and it asks if you or the panelists can sort of reflect a bit on the tensions between and synergies between animal law and environmental law, and why they are odd bedfellows or comfortable bedfellows, and how you're thinking about that as you launch the new program here at a law school that is the best environmental law school in the country.
Yeah, so animal law and environmental law are distinct fields. Animal law really focuses on individual animals and their interests, focuses on animal suffering and animal well-being, whereas environmental law is more focused on environmental systems. That said, they intersect and overlap in so many ways. And Jenny spoke to this somewhat at the beginning, and there is just no reason for us not to be collaborating and speaking to each other. It's long overdue, and given the various crises that we're facing in the world today, if we don't talk to each other and work together, it's just, it doesn't make any sense. And so I'm really excited to be at VLS because I have found already just during my 3 months here that there is tremendous excitement about collaboration and working together. There's an openness to learning what is animal law, how does it intersect with the work that's being done here, and how does it not? I mean, there's recognition that some of the stuff some of our clinics are doing may not be an animal law matter, may not further the interests of animals, even though it is environmentally focused. But those are the exceptions. More often than not, there is an opportunity to advance the interests of both animals and the environment. And so we very deliberately created the animal law program as a discrete program. It is within the Environmental Law Center, as are many other programs. And we will and are collaborating with other programs within the Environmental Law Center, but we are also committed to making sure that animals are always centered in our work, so that if there is a situation where perhaps the animal interests and the environmental interests may not be perfectly aligned, we in the animal law program are prioritizing animal interests. So I don't know if that answered the question. It's a big one. Dr. Rowley is going to be teaching a whole class about it this summer, and some of my co-panelists may want to jump in on that. You're certainly welcome to. And I should have invited you on the other questions as well. So anything the co-panelists want to jump in on, please.
Well, if you don't mind, I actually was thinking about a question that's somewhat related, but really I hear from especially first-year students who are very interested in animal law. They know enough to know that there, as Will mentioned, there's a great deal of suffering out there, and that there have to be some legal or policy angles for them to improve the lives of animals, and whether it is the main thrust of their career or part of what they do on the side. But they're a little bit afraid that it's going to be a bit of a Sisyphean task, and wonder, how does one work in this area and handle the pain and incremental, if that, progress of the law. And so I thought, since Will does this day to day, I was wondering, I don't mean to put you on the spot, Will, but if you could talk a little bit about your experience working in the area and the kinds of victories that you've had, and also maybe some of the disappointments, and where, how that is for you in your work at Animal Outlook.
Sure. I mean, first to the point of just the amount of suffering and how do you deal with it? I mean, that question comes up a lot, and I know there's a lot of us on this call that deal with it, but about half of my job is undercover investigation. So I spend many hours of every day looking at videos or dealing with animals suffering or being abused and exploited. And to me, this always translates back to what I talked about earlier, is if you're looking for a challenge and looking for a way to be creative, I think that's sort of where I turn those videos and that information is what can I take positively from that? Like, what is the transaction that I can take from this that will lead to a legal case, that will lead to an enforcement letter, that will lead to a FSIS violation or whatever the case is. And so I think you can learn to sort of deal with it by finding productive outlets for it. And then as far as, victories and things like that, I mean, just to be transparent, you are often beating your head against the wall. I mean, that's not to say that there never are victories, but the question came up about enforcement earlier, and I spend a great deal of my time arguing with prosecutors about the laws applying and why they should and shouldn't apply. And sometimes you have to find small wins. You have to find small victories. Like, we have a dairy case in Pennsylvania that I just argued the other week, and we found sort of a backdoor procedural outlet to get that question of cruelty in front of the courts again. And that might not sound like much, but we found a way to raise sort of this big fundamental question of animal cruelty. What does it mean in a specific state? And we're able to find a way to use that. And so there's other examples. I think the short thing that I would say is it's definitely a challenging environment, but if you enjoy sort of being creative and competitive and finding solutions, all for a good cause, then there's a never-ending stream of work, and you learn to take solace in the small victories.
actually just, I see a question from somebody in the chat. Delcy, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna start it off. If any of the directors or professors in the animal law program were students in the program, how would you engage in the program? And I'll just say, I really wish that I'd had a clinic. And that was the one thing. I did a lot of things in law school. I didn't say no. I hardly ever said no. Cydnee is pretty much like that, except maybe twice as much so. But I didn't have that opportunity to do clinic work. And so if I could do that, I would. But I did do a lot of moot court competitions and writing and things like that. And so I would do all of that again. And I would take every single opportunity, Devin, to network, meet people, because Delcy's right. The community, the network is still small enough where, and supportive enough where people who are successful in working in this area, and by successful, I mean they're fulfilled in many different ways, and they are looking to help others up to join them. So that's what I would do. How about you?
So it's a great question. I would tell students not to do everything. Don't take every opportunity, especially as we continue to grow the program. That is going to be impossible. And you're going to have to make some hard choices. But I think it's really important to be selective about the things you take on. Law school is hard, and our community is small. And so you want to do the things that you take on really, really well. And so me and Professor Vesilind and others are here to talk through with you, which opportunities best suit your goals and course planning and things like that. But I would caution you to not feel like you have to do it all, because you don't and you can't. And it's better to realize that now than later, because there is an endless amount of animal suffering to tackle and we have to pace ourselves. So that would be my recommendation. That said, I would absolutely tap into the network that's available and figure out what meshes with your interests most within that network. And I do think I would take advantage of the clinical option, or before that starts, the practicum option in this coming spring, if that's available to you. Are there any other questions? Well, I think we can wrap up. I do want to encourage everyone who's here to just stay in touch. If you think of something you wish you had said or asked, don't hesitate to reach out. I'll put my email in the chat. I know others here would be happy to communicate with you as well. And we will be keeping those who are interested updated about things as we build them out. But I so appreciate all of you taking the time today. I know you all are incredibly busy, and I hope you're as excited as I am about what we're doing here. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Delcy, and thank you to the other panelists for a terrific conversation. And thanks to our attendees who made the time to join us today. We really value your feedback, so please keep an eye out for a survey that will land in your email and give us your honest reactions to the panel and events. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you again.